After learning the note names on the staff, then learn the symbols for the different rhythms. So it's important to know this because this will tell us how long to play each note, playing in time. So we start by learning these different rhythmic values. Music is divided into measures or bars, and the number of beats that fit in each bar is indicated by the time signature. So let's start out by looking at a whole note. A whole note gets 4 beats. So in the time signature of 4/4 time, it takes up the whole measure. So you can think whole note, whole measure, it gets 4 beats. So this is a whole note. 1, 2, 3, 4. A half note receives 2 beats. It's half of the value of a whole note. So let's play 2 half notes, filling up the entire measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. A quarter note is 1/4 the value of a whole note, and in a measure of 4/4 time, a quarter note gets 1 beat. So you can think there are 4 quarters in a dollar, there are 4 quarter notes in a measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. An eighth note, if you cut a quarter note in half, you'll have an eighth note. And you can remember this, that there are 8 eighth notes that fit into a measure in 4/4 time. This is called subdividing. So we're taking those quarter notes, slicing them in half. So now instead of counting 1, 2, 3, 4, we're going to count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So that's 8 note values that we're fitting into the measure. So here's what eighth notes sound like. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So go ahead and pull out the examples included with this lesson. And you'll see for example 1 through 3, you'll see a series of rhythms. Before playing this on guitar, put on your metronome and just try clapping these rhythms. Part of getting our sense of rhythm and identifying them before applying it to the guitar is just having an understanding of how these rhythmic values work. So go ahead, get the metronome and clap. You can start the metronome slow, try it, and if it's easy, try the examples again, boost that up a little bit faster, and gradually increase until you really feel comfortable with these rhythms, and then you can apply them onto the guitar. So now I'm gonna clap example 1 with my metronome set at 70 beats per minute, and I'm gonna go ahead and count actually out loud as I'm clapping. And when I'm clapping a whole note, obviously the sound of my clap is not gonna last for 4 beats, so I'm just holding my hands together to sort of replicate the sound sustaining. So here's example 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Example 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's example 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So once you get those rhythms down and memorize what each rhythm looks like, then you can do the same thing for the equivalent rests. So a rest in music is just a symbol that indicates you're not going to play. And in that rhythmic value, there's just going to be silence. So there is a rest symbol equivalent to each of those note symbols. So we have a whole rest that gets 4 beats in 4/4 time of rest, a half rest that gives you 2 beats of rest, a quarter rest that's going to give you 1 beat of rest, and then an eighth rest that's going to give you a half of a beat of rest. So to practice rests, Let's keep our clapping exercise up and look at example 4 and 5, which include rests. 1, 2, 3, 4. Rest, 2, 3, 4. So a lot of rests there. Here's example 5. A little trick here. We have some eighth rests. So go ahead and try clapping this one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Great job. So the next note value, let's add, is a dotted half note. So when you take a dot and put it next to a note value, that just adds half of what that note is worth to the note value. So for instance, if we look at a half note is worth 2 beats. So if we put a dot next to the half note, we're going to take half of what that note is worth and add it on. So a half note gets 2 beats. Half of a half note is 1 beat, so we'll add 1 more beat on. So a dotted half note will get 3 beats. Let's now clap example 6. And this is going to combine our newest concept of a dotted half note with rests and some of the other rhythms we've worked on. Example 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Rest, 2, 3, 4. Rest, 2, 3, 4. So for our next example, we're going to switch to 3/4 time. And a 3/4 time signature for right now is telling us that there are 3 beats per measure instead of 4, but the quarter note is still getting the beat. So here is example 7 in 3/4 time. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and. So the next subdivision we'll talk about is a 16th note. And a 16th note means we're fitting 16 notes into a measure of 4/4 time. So we're taking each quarter note and subdividing it into 4 different notes. And the way we count that is 1 E and A. So as before, we subdivided with an 8th note to give us 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now we're going to do 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. So we're just fitting more notes into the same spaces of beats. So a 16th note sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if I was to say that out loud, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. So let's clap those 16th notes and hear them in action. Here is example 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 E and a 3, 4 E and a 1, 2 and 3 E and a 4. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 E and a 4. 1 E and a and 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 E and a and 3, 4. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3, 4. So one helpful way to remember the sound of a 16th note when you're reading, and also the combination of an 8th note with 2 16th notes or 2 16th notes with an 8th note, is to think of rhythmic devices in the names of food. And there are a lot of these you can learn. I'll just show a few to you. So 16th notes, 1 E and a, you could think watermelon. So every time you see a 16th note, watermelon, 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 watermelon. You can also think pepperoni. When you have an 8th note with 2 16th notes, like 1 E and a, but 1 E and a, you can think strawberry, 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 strawberry. Or if you have two 16th notes and an 8th note, you could think coconut, 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 coconut. So those might be helpful for you. So let's look at example 9, where we're going to be combining 16th notes, 8th notes, and rests. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E and a. The next rhythmic value we'll look at is a dotted quarter note. So you remember with the dotted half note, that dot takes half of the value of the note and adds it. So with a quarter note, we know we have 1 beat. So half of that is an 8th note, or half a beat. So a dotted quarter note gives us 1.5 beats. So if you're to count that, you can think 1 and 2. So it's kind of like 3 8th notes stuffed together. So the dotted quarter note is what starts to give us the feel of syncopation, or making things feel a little disjointed or more rhythmically interesting by having notes happen on the upbeats or the ands. So let's look at example 10 by clapping it and get used to the sound of the dotted quarter note. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4, and 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4 and. So another rhythmic value that you'll see is a triplet. And a triplet is taking 3 notes and playing them evenly in a space of either a beat or maybe 2 beats. So you have an 8th note triplet. The 8th note triplet is 3 notes that happen in the space of 1 beat. And you can just think an easy way to remember triplet is to say triplet, triplet, 1, 2, 3. So if I was to go ahead and clap out with our quarter note click, 8th note triplets, triplet, 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 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So in this case, we have 3 notes that are even in length, even in sound, happening within the space of 1 beat. So another common triplet is the quarter note triplet. And the quarter note triplet looks like 3 quarter notes, and we're playing those 3 quarter note sounds in the space of 2 beats. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So let's clap out example 11, which is going to combine 8th note triplets, quarter note triplets, and some of the other rhythmic values that you're now familiar with. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Triplet, triplet, 3, 4. 1, triplet, 3. Triplet, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 3, 4. So now that you've clapped through all these rhythms, go ahead and turn back to the beginning, start at exercise 1, and now try playing them on the guitar. I have the notes written either A or C, and if you're not familiar yet with where an A or where a C might be, you can go ahead and play these rhythm examples with any note that you want, and just try now getting used to picking them on the guitar. So one note for picking on the guitar, when we're playing quarter notes, it'll be a downstroke. But once we get into the subdivisions of 8th notes and 16th notes, we'll begin our alternate picking. So quarter notes, downstroke, 2, 3, 4. 8th notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So all the numbers, the 1, 2, 3, 4, will be downstrokes. All the ands will be upstrokes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So then when we get into the 16th note subdivision, we'll continue with the alternate picking, 1 E and a, or down, up, down, up. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. So now that you have that, go through and play all the clapping examples, but this time with your guitar.